Yesterday is a wrinkle on your forehead. Yesterday is a promise that you've broken. Don't close your eyes. Don't close your eyes. This is your life, and today is all you got now. And today is all you'll ever have. Don't close your eyes. Don't close your eyes. This is your life. Are you who you wanna be? This is your life. Are you who you wanna be? This is your life. Is everything you dreamed it would be when the world was younger and you had everything to lose?
Man, I'm excited that you've taken the opportunity to join us for this podcast. This is your buddy Dustin Vaughn Warncke. Welcome, Empowered Life Nation. I appreciate you taking the time to download the show or stream it wherever you want to listen to it. I've been at this for a number of years now, and this has been a fun experience. Not only producing other people's podcasts in this new medium that I got started in when podcasting wasn't even cool, but also, creating my own content. I really get a lot of enjoyment out of what I put out here. And today I want to talk a little bit. By the way, let me tell you first what our opening song was, okay? And that was This Is Your Life, is what it was called, by Switchfoot. And before we get started here, just a little preview. We're going to talk about This Is Your Life. Are you who you want to be? All right, that's what the song is asking that we open the show with. And also going to talk about the top three, or the three steps to handle any situation, especially an unexpected situation, okay? So the question is, what are you becoming in the process of who you are becoming? All right? Are you a different person yesterday than you were today, than you will be tomorrow? And we've talked about that through this entire podcast stuff. It's just, we're walking through life together, okay? Every week we walk through life together, and I'm just your guide. You're the hero, okay? There are a lot of villains out there, but right now in this movie, you're the hero of the story. I'm just your guide who is kind of gently nudging you along to have hope and meaning and significance in a purpose-led, faith-filled life. It's real simple. My only Trojan horse in this whole deal, it's kind of like how Amazon packages you get. Sometimes they have the little thing, leave us a review, leave us a 5-star review and join our review program. And there's always some kind of, little insert in in a manufacturer's box that is trying to grow their brand. My only Trojan horse here is to get you to become who God created you to be, so you can be the hands and feet of God in Christ to other people. It's kind of a simple thing. If I empower you, you can empower somebody else who needs empowerment in your life. And it's a chain reaction. It's the whole idea behind Empowered Life Nation. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, empoweredlifenation.com. If you want to learn something about your buddy Dustin, the podcast can be found at dustinspodcast.com. I also have a creator hub at dustinsprojects.com. You can see all my outdoor industry stuff, TV shows, podcasts I produce, celebrities I work with in the outdoor industry. But it's not about me. There is no me. Okay. The whole idea is I'm just your guide. I'm your buddy. I'm just bringing you awareness that you are a part of God, and that God made you to know you. Okay. And I'm going to do a new digital product, an audio, kind of maybe even a video presentation, like a little micro course of, some things you may not have thought about when it comes to your spirituality and your spiritual walk and all that is, that I call God, or source. All right. The source of all creation that abundantly created something out of nothing. Well, it makes you beg the question, what is nothing? If nothing exists, how do you define nothing if it is void of existence? I know I go deep on this podcast with a lot of ideas and a lot of the things that I've gone through, and really a lot of personal work on myself and my own spiritual growth that I want to share to you with you, such as the guided affirmations, the decrees, the things that you can say to empower your day. All right. Abundance and the divine and everything's out there waiting for you. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. Otherwise, you waste a day and the whole world is, it's gone. All right. So first thing we're going to get to here is the top three. No, I always say the top three. The three steps to handle any situation. So the point of not just becoming something better in the process of your struggles, hardships, obstacles, we all have them. Okay. We have roadblocks all the time in every, any area of our life at one time has at least one roadblock. All right. One roadblock is always, an obstacle we're having to overcome in work or career or family or business or, relationships such as marriage, committed friendships, committed partnerships, whatever you got. All right. I'm just here to say, let's talk real. Okay. So let's say that something unexpected happens. First thing I say, what do I say, folks? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? That diffuses and de-escalates any anger, unless you hit your head or something, you're really upset, but as far as, okay, oh my gosh, something just happened in front of me. I got a phone call that I wasn't expecting or whatever. And you go into panic mode. Instead of that, just diffuse that and say, isn't that interesting? Put the fire out that's getting ready to get started in your head, okay, or in your emotions. Before you get heated up and ticked off and on edge, let's just say, isn't that interesting? And then let's follow that up with, you know what, that happens sometimes. That happens sometimes. Those two phrases are going to save you a lot of headaches and heartaches, okay? It's going to keep you from getting heated up and worked up about something and keep you calm so you can be reasonable in your decision making. Again, as I talked about on the show before, somebody sends you a nasty email, somebody chews you out on the phone, whatever the case may be, respond calmly. And if it's an email or something asynchronous that you don't have to respond to right away, go to bed. All right? Not with anger. Release the anger, but don't get caught up in all the garbage that's out there in the world that is just there to make you fester anger. All right? Don't react to it right away, because likely that's not going to be the best response. Okay? So, step number 1 is to accept the situation for what it is. Okay? You've always heard the saying, it is what it is. Well, it really is what it is. Accept the situation as it is, not as you wish you could have it. Okay? I talk about that a lot in the Serenity Prayer when I write in Empowering Resilience and in Intentional Optimized Life. That, the Serenity Prayer is what I based a lot of those 2 books about, was about the fact that taking the sinful world as Jesus did, as it is, not as I would have it. All right. We'd love to have things our way. All right. But unfortunately, a lot of things are beyond our control to have them our way. All right. So accept the situation as it is, not as you would like to have it. All right. Number 2, harvest the best. There's a lesson in everything. What lesson are you learning from that one person in your life? What lesson have you learned from somebody that's been in your life for a while, or somebody that came into your life and left just as mysteriously? Okay. Every person in your life is there to teach you at least one lesson. But what out of the struggles you've had in a relationship, a friendship, a marriage, whatever the case may be, have you learned about how to be kinder, about how to love more, and how not to take somebody's BS? That's important. I'm starting to clean house, and a lot of I don't mean literally, I'm doing that too. But some of the relationships that I've had, one of them's a 20-year friendship. Okay, that I've had is a business relationship and a friendship, and I can't seem to get the time of day. This friend is way too busy to talk to me. We had a project we were going to work on together. He was getting all fired up about it, called me one night, and then it's just been crickets. And I finally just sent him a text message that said, dude, I hope I'm available if I choose to even work on anything for you in the future, because you're not responding to anything now, and I've reached out several times, and I'm not going to reach out anymore. If you got something like that going on in your life, that it costs you your inner peace because you're not a priority. I'm gonna say something that that actually comes from one of the Batman movies. Okay, when Joker, okay, whoever played Joker in the movie where this was said, if someone treats you like an option, then leave them like a choice. If someone treats you like an option, leave them like a choice. Now, I'm not saying that as a blanket statement across the, people deserve second chances, but sometimes how many second chances do you give? Right? Don't be a pushover. Don't be a rug mat. All right. Stand up for what is rightfully yours. And love needs to be given freely and received freely. Okay. And if it's not, then there's a problem. Okay. There's a problem. If one of the people in a relationship of any kind, a friendship, all the way to a marriage, has a problem, there's a problem in that relationship that needs to be addressed. And if it doesn't, then things are going to get out of control and escalate quickly. And we don't like situations like that. Nobody likes uncomfortable conversations. I have been very comfortable being in uncomfortable conversations over the years. All right. Again, don't avoid it until it blows up at the worst possible moment. So harvest the best lessons out of that and minimize the negative. I'm not saying bury the stuff inside of you. You don't share if somebody's ticking you off or something like that. No, 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 no. Okay, work through those situations, and they're not work throughable. If they're not workable, you cannot work through them. All right, then you have a decision to make. And remember, when you choose or not choose, you're still making a choice. You're still making a choice to choose or not choose. Whether you choose or not choose, the choice is still yours alone. All right. Even by not choosing, you have made a choice. Harvest the best out of that situation. There's a silver, no matter how bad the situation is, there's a silver lining in the cloud. I'm tripping up my words again. I apologize. It's been a long morning so far. So, number 3, you've got forgive the rest and forget the rest. I say both. I think the way that Bob Proctor wrote it initially was forgive the rest. Harvest the best, forgive the rest. Accept it, starting with number 1. Accept it. Number 2, harvest the best. Number 3, forget the rest. Easy to remember, but I always add on there, forgive the rest. If you've got some past things you need to let go of, some past trauma, some PTSD, some things that have changed your outlook on life, it's time to find some help and process through those things. Okay. Get some professional help, a telehealth counselor, somebody you can affordably meet with once a week. All right. Somebody that can guide you through processing through those emotions and letting go. All right. And one of the things that I say often is that, you can't take everybody's luggage on the plane, right? Now you can't fit everybody's kitchen sink in there, right? Plane couldn't take off. You can't get the plane off the ground if your baggage is still weighing it down. All right. So part of the altitude has to do with letting go and cutting some dead weight off. And you know what I mean. Cutting some dead weight off of your what's on your shoulders right now, as far as tasks to do, things that just you need to be free from. And you know what those are in your own life, right? I'm your buddy Dustin. I'm just telling you how it is, okay? We're adults here, most of us, okay? So speaking of that, I'm gonna get into another thing that just, I try to relate to whatever's going on when I record these podcasts. So this morning I watched Deepwater Horizon, the movie. Mark Wahlberg's in it. You may have seen it. It came out a few years ago. I think I saw it first when I was visiting my aunt's house where my grandmother used to live. And I didn't realize they made a movie of it. I don't watch a lot of movies and TV. I sat down and watched the whole thing, which is probably the first time I've watched a movie in the last 2 years at least, where I've actually sat through a movie by myself. All right, not in a theater, just here at my place. Okay, I'm always on the mission to do something, either clean up the house or whatever. It's not always work related. It's just life. I live by myself. So Deepwater Horizon, for some reason, man-made catastrophes interest me because a lot of them could have been prevented. Good example is Chernobyl, right? We all remember the stories, if we're old enough, of Chernobyl back in the 1970s, I believe, that 50,000 people used to live in that community around that nuclear reactor, and then one thing leads to another. It's like a chain reaction of events, and nobody can live there now for like at least another 500 years. It's radioactive everywhere. That was a meltdown, a true nuclear meltdown. 3 Mile Island is another one, nuclear plant here in the United States that had quite a crisis. Okay, had to be contained. And then I'm into the outdoors, conservation, the protection of wildlife, those who don't have a voice. Okay, that's why I'm big about wild sheep. I love wild sheep because I believe they need to be protected, just like a lot of our other things that shark fins are harvested by a lot of Asian countries to make shark fin soup and that kind of stuff. Again, I believe there needs to be conservation efforts across the planet to save the beautiful species that God created. All right. If some go extinct, I understand that, a natural part of evolution. But and the fact that species come and species go, and the rainforest and that kind of stuff. But overall, I want to preserve what we enjoy so much: clean water, clean air. I'm not considered an environmentalist, but I still want clean water and clean air for my children's children, right? Um, all of us as grandparents or parents, would like to have our kids live in a clean world. Well, that was a bit of a mess because I just, got done with watching the movie, so this is fresh on my mind. Deepwater Horizon was we're not just an offshore oil rig. I don't think at the time that anything had been drilled into the ocean floor that was that deep. You couldn't get to it. So one thing leads to another, chain reaction. They're releasing pressure on one valve. Pressure builds up on the mud that they use to extract the oil, and there's all kinds of different types of mud that you use in oil drilling. And so I understood some of that because I live in Texas, and this is a very big oil powered state. But at the same time, it was somebody's ego that got in the way. Okay, in this case, from the company side, one of the bean counters, one of the operations people that made a little bit of an aggressive call, and it caused the whole rig to completely blow up. And some people got to escape, some people didn't. And then we have the problem, not only the man-made disaster of the actual oil rig, we got the problem of, oh goodness, the oil pipe gets cut, and it doesn't get cut cleanly. All right, to be able to try to contain, because the rig is floating on top of an oil pipe. That's all that's holding that thing, on the surface, is the rig is floating. The offshore oil rigs are floating above the deep water, that they're drilling into the ocean floor. And that offshore oil rigs, people, go there all the time to work. Okay, pays well. You're away from civilization for months, but either way, a lot of guys like making a living doing that, either as an engineer or operational supervisor, or heck, even a roughneck. Okay, getting down there in the room with the mud shack and all the other kind of things in oil drilling. I have some family members that work on offshore oil rigs. Okay, but it's a slippery slope because that disaster flooded all kinds. I don't know how many gallons a minute were spilling out of that bent pipe after they cut it from the Deepwater Horizon oil rig, the vessel, and that was kind of floating up there, the offshore oil rig. So it is leaking oil into the Gulf of Mexico at an exponential rate. And we're helpless at that point. I remember this is, I think, during the Obama administration. So Obama got directly involved in it. And politics aside, it was a mess that a robot had to eventually go down there and clamp that pipe, that drill stem that was stuck out of the ocean floor. Humans couldn't get down there. We couldn't dive that deep, right? To be able to fix that mess. And a mess that man contained, and oil is spilling out at an exponential rate, polluting the Gulf of Mexico at the time. And then that shows up on the Venice Beach, Louisiana. So Venice is one of my favorite fishing destinations. It's a huge redfish capital when it comes to fishing for redfish, sport fish, inshore sport fish like redfish and sea trout, or speckled trout. I'm sorry, not sea. Yeah, speckled trout and redfish. Those are the two main things that we go after for inshore fishing, coastal bays, marshes, that kind of stuff. And Louisiana is one of the capitals of redfish, especially big redfish. And here comes all this oil disaster, ruins the whole, kind of peas on the whole parade of this beautiful wildlife and these birds, and the Dial soap commercials of how to how to that's safe enough to use for the baby birds from the oil spill. All right, the Exxon Valdez is another case of that. Okay. um a lot of oil catastrophes, nuclear catastrophes. These are all man-made disasters that affect people and the environment. All right. And I understand there's a need for oil, there's a need for nuclear power and clean energy and wind farms and all this other stuff. But we only really get the sensationalized news and a movie made like Deepwater Horizon out of the disasters, the man-made disasters that then cause an environmental disaster. All right. So the whole point of this is that don't necessarily trust the things of the world. Not everything you see, which is based on people's judgment, is the right advice. Be careful where you're getting your information from, because you don't want to end up in a man-made disaster. All right. And I don't mean that you're working on an offshore oil rig or that you're, working in a nuclear power plant. I'm talking about just generally living life. Be careful where you get your information from. All right. And you focus on you. You become who you want to become and who you believe God is calling you to do with your own mission, value, and vision. What your personal ministry is, what your way to give back, what your moral compass is, what your code of honor is. That's your job. Okay? Don't and keep away from the things that man makes that can be, I mean, we have a lot of technology and that kind of stuff that man has kind of, invented, and some of it I wonder if it wasn't invented, in other places and brought to earth. I don't know. But we sure did come a long way in 25 years. I'm just saying, okay? I mean, I was there for the beginning of dial-up, as I talked about in a previous show. So again, look at what's around you. Like look at what's being served to you and sold to you as truth, and you examine it. Examine everything I'm telling you on this podcast and see if it's true for your life. I don't expect you to take my advice. I expect you to do what's best for you. But I'm just trying to guide you to the way to the truth and the white light of God. And the white light of God, again, man's judgment, and not necessarily judgment like good or bad, but man's judgment calls on different situations, like we see in the Deepwater Horizon catastrophe that was. Okay, is what caused that to begin with. Man's judgment caused that. Man's judgment caused Chernobyl. Chernobyl could have been avoided. I mean, a lot of these man-made disasters could have been avoided, but it was because of poor judgment or not fully thought out judgment. So choose wisely. Every day you get to choose discipline or regret. Do you want to be disciplined and intentional? Okay? Or do you want to regret not doing anything? You have that choice every day you wake up. And if you're still sucking air, you're still breathing, you're breathing the breath of God, the breath of life into you. How interesting, we breathe in oxygen for our lungs, and then we exhale carbon dioxide. And then the trees breathe in carbon dioxide and put out air. That's why everybody talks about tree huggers and that kind of stuff. But think about life. Think about how it all is cyclic. It all works in a cycle. Okay? It all has a beginning and an end. And this earth is a very beautiful place in parts of it, and very, very, if you go out into the wilderness like where I live, okay, I could almost live off the grid out here without electricity or any of that. We've got a lot of preparations out here in case something does happen. A lot of people in the cities wouldn't know what to do in a situation besides run out to the country, and we're already all full. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying that the resources that we depend on, like electricity, food, water, the grocery store being stocked with shelf stocked. Again, you can't always depend on that. Supply chains, diesel trucks are the ones that be able to make those semis come in with a load of groceries, so you can be able to buy it off the shelves. Be aware, be awake, make preparations. Okay, It's one thing I talk about in my Bread and Circuses video that's on YouTube. I've kind of summarized that in the podcast is your neighbor probably has more in common with you than the guy on Fox News or on CNN or any of the major news networks, right? Even if your neighbor believes completely different than you do about religion and about politics, you could probably still help each other. How many of you all know your neighbors? How many all on every corner? Okay. I try to get along with everybody that I live around and at least know them and know they may be good at word working or doing something, there. If we get into a survival situation and the world, has another pandemic or plandemic, as some say, um, at least be prepared. Get you some food, get you some water, get you some preparations. I'm not talking about becoming a doomsday prepper. The whole TV show about that for years and years. All right. But the whole idea is just be prepared for the unexpected. Okay. Prepare for accepting it, harvesting the best, and forgetting and forgiving the rest. Okay. And look at the fact that man made disasters are a lot of times caused by man made judgments. All right. Judgment calls. All right. Don't trust everything you read. Don't trust everything you see. Examine it to see if you believe that it's truth. Kind of like how I get my news. I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, goodness, I'll believe whatever they say on TV. Well, they got 24 hours to fill, okay, your screen full of some kind of circus going on in the world. All right. I am big about humanitarian causes. I'm big about feeding ministries. I'm big about people who are oppressed and have no voice. And also animals and wildlife. And, I'm talking about domestic animals like your dogs and cats being treated well, well fed. I live out on a place that all the dogs are fed real well. And, and just fun and healthy and happy. And then there are other places in the world where you have wildlife that is going extinct because they do not have an advocate. And that's one reason why I support the Wild Sheep Foundation, which is about the preservation of wild sheep, Rocky Mountain bighorns and desert bighorns. Okay. I may never shoot one of those. That's like a $50,000 hunt if you don't draw a tag for it. But I still respect the sheep. The sheep need to be protected. Okay, that's why I support the Wild Sheep Foundation. You don't have to. You can find whatever you want to. But the idea is advocating for wildlife, fish, domestic pets, your chickens, your goats, your sheep, wherever you live. Okay, feed them, take care of them, and bless them. They were given to you as a resource. Okay, and then don't forget that you are their voice because they cannot speak for themselves. They are the least of these, which Christ tells us to whatever you do to the least of these, which he was talking about children, but all kinds. Children were offcast. They were seen but not heard, all the way up until my grandmother's generation. They were seen but not heard. They were there for work. They were discarded. They were lower than women in a lot of cases in the ancient Hebrew culture. Okay, they were discarded. Okay, suffer the little children come unto me, and in one verse of the Bible that Jesus says, he welcomes the children when the parents are trying to keep them away. All right, whatever you do to the least of these, you do unto me. And that's why I take cases of people in vulnerable situations, so the false prophets and pastors that have all kinds of scandals going on besides themselves that are on TV and out there publicly. All right, I take that stuff very seriously because they are the ones that are supposed to be the shepherds. And not only the ones to be the shepherds, they're fleecing the sheep. They're abusing the sheep in some cases. And then showing up on Sunday like everything's okay. That's not cool. Same deal with people who abuse animals or neglect animals. Not very big fan. Because the thing is, those animals do not have. There's a couple of dogs out here where I live that different people own in this little micro community. Like the whole idea is that they, those animals had trauma and they can't process through trauma like a person can. Abuse, neglect, those kind of things. At least I'm in a safe haven here that welcomes the dogs that are at the outcast and the margins. All right. feed an animal that's hungry, not a rabid animal. Be safe about it. But again, leave food out. Okay, take care of don't be silly as far as you don't want to attract all the raccoons and the possums at my parents' place. That's what they do. Is they got raccoons and possums, but I even like to watch them feed when I lived over there with them, for a short while. Again, take care of those that don't have a voice. And when you feed animals, watch what happens. Not just feeding the dog because you own the dog, okay? But leaving food out if you see stray cats. All right? When you are a source of food, when you are the source of provisions for another creature, for life, for another life form, whether it's an animal or a person or a fish, you become the source of what you are trying to be. You're being the source for that individual, for that group of animals, for that group of fish that you're advocating for. But the simple act of just feeding wildlife, feeding the fish, okay, making sure that they have good, healthy protein food sources, okay? Somebody else is neglecting their pets, okay, or their sheep or their goats or whatever. Try to find a way to feed them so they don't feel neglected and they don't feel that way. I've run into a case of that recently where there's a landowner not taking care of a group of sheep. And I love the sheep, remember? I love the wild sheep. I love the domestic sheep too. Look at sheep all the way through the Bible, the shepherd and the sheep, right? That's what we are as humans. We're supposed to protect those that do not have a voice. And sheep are very vulnerable. And these sheep have been pinned up and I'm getting ready to call somebody, all right? But the thing is, I'm trying to help make sure they have food and make sure they have water and make sure they're sustained and then advocate for their help. Don't just say a neglect situation. Oh, I don't know what they do with their dogs or whatever. I'm not talking about calling the law on everybody, but be the hands and feet of Christ and feed the sheep and know that by feeding stray animals that are out there by the supermarket trash cans, okay, a lot of the cats I've owned over the years were found by dumpsters trying to get something to eat. All right, some of the best animals I've ever owned were like street alley cats. They were tough. Preya being the top one. I've got a picture of her on my mantle still. That was my favorite cat. I lost her in 2019. She was my spirit animal. Fearless, limitless, all the way to where we had to put her down. She fought like she was half blind, crippled, part crazy. I mean, just losing, but she still had the will and was still strong and fearless. Big old dog walked by, didn't care. Preya didn't care. She would walk towards the situation of threat. Okay, she wasn't scared. Even though she was a little bitty pint-sized Spitfire, she didn't take it from anybody. She wasn't afraid of anything because she lived on the streets. She knew what it was like to survive and live hardcore. I always say she had a gangster limp. Anyway, maybe she had a gangster limp, She kind of skulked around, like she was like a mountain lion or something. It was kind of cool. Gosh, I miss Preya. But the whole point is be the hands and feet, not just to other humans, but to the animals too. Okay, leave some bird seed out. And just watch nature and commune with nature. At least spend 30 minutes outside a day. Not just outside of your car on the way to the house, not just outside of the car on the way to work. Sit out there for 30 minutes. I do it just about every night. I look up and watch the planes. Planes have a direct flight path right over my place. And I've seen a whole bunch of other crazy stuff lately here too in the skies. All right, that's another show for another time. But the whole thing is out here in the country where I live, it's peaceful. You get to see the stars every night. And that fulfills me because I am communing. I call it intimacy with the outdoors. Just communing with nature. And that's a beautiful thing. That's something our souls all need in this concrete jungle of a world that we have tried to build. So I really appreciate you taking the opportunity to download the show, stream it, whatever you're going to do. And please tell a friend about this too. All right. Don't think that you're alone. Don't think that there's no hope, because there is. And once you get to where you want to be, you get to decide how you're going to help somebody else get what they want to be. And they will look to you as their guide, and they will be your hero. Just like I'm your guide and you're my hero. Okay? Remember, God made you to know you. You are an expression of God. Your hands, feet, everything is a fingerprint of God. Christianity a lot of times teaches us through what we read that we're apart from God, that we're fallen from God. A lot of Paul's gospel is like that. And I go back to where Jesus said, you do for the least of these, you do for me. Okay? The kindness, the Christ compassion that we can share on each other and be somebody else's hero and not lose hope in ourselves because we're strong enough to help somebody else. That's the whole point of this whole movement. The Empowered Life Nation is here to help move towards that part of the reality, the part of where we belong to become, who we belong to, who we are, and whose we are. So that way you don't have to sit there and figure out, oh my gosh, what am I going to do next? You're helping somebody else figure out what they're going to do next because you've got your stuff squared away. So after you transform your life, you can go help somebody else. Help them help themselves. That's what it's all about. Help other people help themselves. All right? And don't be afraid. Be bold. Be bold. If you're meek, be bold. This is your time to be bold. This is your time to branch out. Open up your arms. And walk into the day going, God, this is a wonderful day. Not, oh God, what do I have to face today? Oh God, this is a wonderful day. And this is going to be a wonderful day in the beginning of it. Okay? Whatever you speak, your subconscious mind will hear and accept. And the answer is always yes to the universe. If you say yes, my life is great, the universe will respond in kind. Yes, your life is great. If you respond, oh, this day sucks, the universe is going to give you more of what you asked for and just validate what you said. All right? Don't miss that. Your thoughts, your speech patterns, your self-doubt, your criticism, your joy, your gratitude, your great attitude are all heard. Okay? We're all in the God consciousness together. Human consciousness is part of God. And we are individual expressions of God's love. Don't miss that. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's raining out here today, but you know what? I'm going to still go outside after the rain stops and look up at the sky and give thanks. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that you have joined me for this ride. Website again, empoweredlifenation.com. You want to check out all the other stuff I do. I've got a link tree and the tree of links. Dustinsprojects.com. It's DustinsProjects. Yes, Dustin's Projects. Just make sure you put the two S's in there. Then marketing stuff, businesswithdustin.com. At social media, I think I've got at Dustin's Projects, at Business with Dustin. Check it out. Look it up. My Facebook page is open. If I can accept you as a friend request, if you want to send me a message or whatever, that's open. There's a way to contact me through the website or whatever. If you have any issues, God bless all of you. God maximize every one of you and your family. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.